post-war enterprise system placed few restrictions on business activities and ownership. So the government had minimal ownership of enterprises in the marketplace. There was also limited restrictions on trade and minimal government interventions. The supply and demand go hand in hand in this, because if there's more demand, then the prices will go up, but if the prices go up, then there will be less demand, so it'll stay in check. And then this is also like the doctrine of laissez-faire, which I'm assuming most of you have heard of.
No, but tell them what it is.
It's just like free, it's just everything that I said. It's like less government intervention on the like trade and stuff.
Okay, so from 1860 to 1870, railroads were a big impact because they created a national market, a new economy, and a new culture, and they also eased trade. And because of the new culture, lots of immigrants flooded America at the time. In addition, the labor force increased, but also the number of unskilled laborers also increased. So there weren't a lot of people who knew how to do their job. And because of that, there was a lot of high unemployment because the immigrants were doing a lot of cheap work because they weren't doing a good job. So in the New South, you had New South boosters, and this happened like right after the Civil War. Railroads became a priority to them because railroads were lacking in the South compared to the North. And then there's a lot of post-war expansion that facilitated connections between rural and urban areas. There is a campaign for new roads because they would increase the flow of goods and would entice northern businesses to move to the south. And then also they promoted industry, which the result was the rise of manufacturing industries such as textiles, furniture, and steel, while agriculture, such as cotton, remained as the dominant resource in the South. A lot of new resources provided wealth for people, so people wanted equal rights at the time. And there are new investments for the South and opportunities for landless farmers to finally leave their land.
Yeah, and that picture closest to Olivia is like the black people petitioning for equal rights. And some of them say Jim Crow must go.
And what's the cartoon?
The other one is like all black like people who are working are gonna like stand
Okay.
together.
Oh, okay.
They're gonna
So
stand
those
together.
are people, sort of like Leviathan. Those are people upholding the
Yeah.
fist. And do you know when that was published?
I don't know. Okay, so the Long Depression from 1873 to 1878 was a worldwide depression where a lot of companies went bankrupt. Unemployment rose to 14% by 1876. And there were railroad strikes due to financial cuts where people just wouldn't go to work. And 100 people died after troops were sent to break up the strikes, which prevented trains from moving because there was nobody to work. And racism was put aside because the North was too focused on fixing their economy to worry about racism in the South. And some reasons why this happened is because one of the most trusted financial groups, which was Jay Cooke and Company, declared bankruptcy, and then other smaller companies followed. And then consolidation is when a big company buys out the smaller companies. So then when they go bankrupt, then it's all going bankrupt from there. And then those are people just like petitioning to get their money back. And that's the Fourth National Bank. So.
And that's an artist's rendition? That's
Yeah, yeah. And then this is just wholesale prices. You can see after each large war would happen, there would be like a huge drop in wholesale prices. So that's just really nice, except World War II.
We'll have to talk about that. That's a good chart. Go back to your chart so we can absorb that for a second. And so connect that with your slide you just talked about in the Depression. What is that?
That was in 1873, so that was probably, this this big drop right there. Yeah, that was that big depression there. After the Civil War, things just started to go down, and then they started to go back up after forming like railroads and more businesses, and then there was that big drop.
Remember to do that, folks, is you're trying to prove collaboration, right? So they've got it, it's there, but you want to say it, you want to, don't leave it unsaid.
Alright, so Edison, as we all know, was pretty popular around 1880 and stuff. So his inventions led to successful businesses, and what he did is he conceived of two markets for his electrical power system. He isolated installations for factories, mills, and central stations, and based on different sizes of those plants, he developed several models that were able to power different sized installations, as you can see here. And his main goal was to build central stations that would send power to large geographic areas. So that's like a map, like showing where it would go. And then some of his other notable inventions was he found a faster way to send telegraphs, which were 1,000 words per minute. He was able to make a telephone with increased signal and distance. He also created a universal stock printer with updates on stocks, bonds, commodity prices from exchange floors to brokers and investors.
Yeah, so the stock, it's all the way over there. Stock printer, it would be so you could easily see, you could easily check in on your stocks and your lower, all the things about that.
Like commodity prices and
Yeah.
brokers and investors.
So it would like, everybody would have the printer on their desk and it would print out like when it was updated, so everybody would know like what was going on with their stocks.
It's pretty much like live updating.
Yeah.
Talk about the impact of one man. And it's like Eli Whitney impacting the whole country. Let Edison, I was just asking Grant if he knew about the stock machine. He didn't. I mean, you think of Edison, he's pretty limitless what he done. One person can make a difference.
Okay, immigration and racism. So slaves represented wealth and power for the South, and now that they were free, it just showed that the South wasn't as, I guess, wealthy and didn't have as much power as they used to. Slaves and immigrants did jobs that we wouldn't because it was just cheaper labor. And blacks were not equal to whites because of the Jim Crow laws. Whites had higher class and better paying jobs. And any super poor white person was probably richer than one of the wealthiest black people. And then white supremacy was still very prevalent during this time. And bad working conditions for everyone, not only blacks, but just the conditions were very bad to work in. And then that picture is just like saying they want help for just like cheap help.
It shows a lot of racism.
Yeah.
Can you think, I can't quite see what so what's the text?
So it says help wanted for cheap.
To keep our something cheap. And then it's just like a
Cheap
picture.
something labor.
Profits, excessive
Maybe.
profits.
Yeah. Can't really read it. To keep the help in their proper place. To keep the help in their proper place.
Okay, in the proper place. I was trying to say, wait a minute, how's this demonstrating what you just said? Now I see.
Yeah, and then up at the top, it's like talking about for cheap something labor. But I don't know what the third word is.
And they're like carrying.
Yeah.
All right, I got you.
Alright, the Sherman Antitrust Act, and it was enacted on July 2nd, 1890 by John Sherman. And he was the current senator of Ohio at the time. There's a picture of him right there. So basically, people were really angry about monopolies, which is basically like seizing power in trade. And they were angry about the monopolies' damaging effects on prices. So basically, the Sherman Antitrust Act, the purpose of it was to regulate trade and maintain a balance between businesses. It was also to reduce the power of robber barons, which are basically a word that describes really wealthy men, and it prohibits anti-competitive practices. So the impact was that it prohibited monopolies, but also it prevented boycotts. It concerted action, price fixing and market allocation, and it put a restraint in trade and
So child labor, these are just a bunch of pictures of children in the workforce. And children were used to get more money for the family because the more people that you have working, the more money you had coming in. 1/4 of Southern mill workers were ages 6 to 16. And farmers, or families were trapped in poor villages where everyone had to work in order to survive, and they just couldn't leave the villages because they didn't have enough money. And if not everyone in the family was working, then there was a slim chance of survival because more workers meant more money. And if there were more people in the family, there was more mouths to feed, so everybody had to work in order to survive.
What's our time frame on this, Lydia?
It would have been mostly like 1890s,
it's
yeah.
like 1900.
Yeah. And then those are the image sources, and then these are the
Once
15 inventions, geez, what?